Deputy Mayor, we are streaming and ready to roll.
All right. It is now 6 o'clock. Time to call the Riverside City Council meeting for Monday, September 15th to order. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Brown?
Here.
Mr. Denning?
Here.
Ms. Fry?
Here.
Mr. Joseph?
Yes.
Ms. Lomatch?
Yes.
Mr. Maxfield?
Present.
Mayor Williams?
Is there a motion to excuse?
Motion excuse.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Manager, are there any additions or corrections to the agenda?
No, Deputy Mayor.
Move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. Motion carries. If you're able to stand, please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Tonight, we have a proclamation recognizing Stormwater Awareness Week, which is recognized October 1st through 7th. Sorry,
Yep.
is that right?
In Ohio, yeah.
In Ohio. It reads, whereas stormwater runoff impacts the water quality in creeks, streams, and other waterways in Riverside, Ohio, and whereas population growth, residential and commercial development, and the resulting changes to the landscape will only increase stormwater quality and quality concerns throughout Ohio, and whereas these impacts cannot be entirely avoided or eliminated, but can be minimized, and whereas it is currently recognized that control of stormwater quality and quantity and quality is most effectively implemented when people and organizations understand the related causes and consequences of polluted stormwater runoff and flooding, and the actions they can take to control these, and whereas the need arises not only from the regulatory requirements of EPA general construction and municipal stormwater rules, but also from the recognition that citizens and local decision makers will benefit from a greater awareness of how the cumulative impact of decisions at home, at work, and through local policies impact our water quality, stream corridors, and flooding, and whereas the development and implementation of effective outcomes-based stormwater education and outreach programs will meet the related federal stormwater pollution control requirements and those of the communities they serve, so that Ohio continues to be a great place to work, live, and play. Now therefore I, Brenda Fry, Deputy Mayor of the City of Riverside, Ohio, and the Council of the City of Riverside, join soil and water conservation districts and communities across Ohio in recognizing October 1st through 7th, 2025 as Stormwater Awareness Week. Signed under my hand and seal, this 15th day of September 2025. Okay. Moving on, Mr. Manager, we have a presentation this evening from the Source Water Protection Program.
We do, and I'm pleased to introduce Ms. Sarah Holod and Mr. Zach Schultz, who are here from the Source Water Protection Program. And I'll get that queued up. They have a presentation about some of the efforts that their program has undertaken recently. So if you both don't mind, yeah, you'll want to get a little bit close to that mic just so folks can hear you. So, hang on one second. This is where we balance many spinning plates. There we go, try that.
Can you hear me okay?
Gotcha, thank you.
All right, well, good evening. Thank you for having us. My name is Zach Schultz. I'm with the City of Dayton's Department of Water. I'm here with Sarah from Public Health. I'm here to talk to you about our Source Water Protection Program, of which Riverside is a major partner. So beneath our feet right now is the Great Miami Buried Valley Aquifer, which is the water source not only for our communities, but for many communities in this part of Ohio. This is one of my favorite maps here. This dark green section, you can see the shape of the aquifer reaching kind of south from here and also north up towards Indian Lake there. But this network, it used to be a network of valleys, of deep valleys that were filled in with sand and gravel by glaciers. And I like to explain it to people like a bowl of cereal. Those original valleys were like the bowl, whereas the sand and gravel that was added in by the glaciers is like the cereal being added in, and then when it rains, it's like pouring milk all over it. It fills in all those gaps and basically acts like a really big sponge. So it's a drinking water source for 1.6 million people, 400,000 of which are Dayton Water customers, either directly by living within the city of Dayton or indirectly by getting their water from Montgomery County, who purchases water from the city of Dayton. And most importantly on this slide, our aquifer is a sole source aquifer, meaning that it is the only viable source of drinking water for this area. There is not enough water in the rivers to provide for the population that's here, so it is the only sustainable drinking source in this area, which is part of why it's so important to protect. So as kind of an example here, these two soda bottles that you see on the right, were those to be filled with TCE, which is an industrial solvent, just that volume there is enough to contaminate 50 million gallons beyond the Safe Drinking Water Act standards. So water is very susceptible in general to contamination, but a lot of the natural characteristics of our aquifer that make it a great water source, it's easily recharged by rainwater. That also means it's susceptible to spills as well. So some very wise folks back in the late 80s brought everybody together and formed this multi-jurisdictional source water protection program in recognition of the fact that nobody's told the aquifer about the political boundaries that we've imposed on it. It exists along its natural spread, and it takes a lot of collaboration between different jurisdictions to pull off a program like this and to take proper care of a natural resource. So it's a very multifaceted program. I could talk about each of these for an hour, but to say them quickly, really it revolves around looking at how chemicals are stored and used near our well fields, predominantly through business inspections. Businesses in certain areas are under regulations about what chemicals they can store and the total volume that can be stored in those areas. They're inspected to look at the practices in the storage of those chemicals. And then we also have funding for grants for risk reduction for certain areas, both for municipalities and businesses within them. We do emergency response, so if there is a chemical release, we go and respond to it and make sure that our water isn't impacted. We do community education and engagement, part of what I'm doing here today, and we do groundwater monitoring. So there's a large scientific component that helps to inform that regulatory work. So this is our source water protection area. In dark blue are the well fields, and then in red and black are the two regulatory boundaries. To save time, I just want to focus on this slide on the pastel colors in the background, that patchwork of the many different jurisdictions that fall within those boundaries. And notably, you'll notice Riverside in light blue there, how much of Riverside falls within those boundaries, and then also how much of those areas Riverside makes up. And on this slide, I just wanted to talk about funding and positions. So the Dayton Water Department funds a number of positions, mine included as part of this program, but also through the Fund Board funds a number of positions across different jurisdictions in key areas to reduce risk and help supplement the program. If you ever look at your water bill, you'll notice a rider on the bottom that says source water protection. At least for my household, it's less than $1 per quarter. It's kind of a small one, but it goes into a fund that then is used exclusively for risk reduction and drinking water protection. And in this slide here, you're seeing some of the positions that that are filled by that funding. So positions of public health and also a position here at Riverside. So with that, I'm going to hand it off to Sarah. She's the liaison for Riverside working through public health, and she's going to talk a little bit more about Riverside specifically and some of the projects that have been successful in Riverside with that Fund Board funding.
Hello.
If you can just pull that down, Sarah, just there you go. Thank you.
How's that? Is that better?
Yep.
Okay. Hello. Thanks for having us. Like Zach said, 67% of the city is in the Source Water Protection Program. So that is a large chunk, and it's really impactful for our efforts. I'm the Wellfield Protection Specialist, so me and my partner Spencer, we're out in the city almost every day doing business inspections. They can be conforming use, which is only 20 gallons allowed on site, the entire parcel. Those are really easy. And then there's non-conforming uses where their chemical capacity is much higher. And then so we do our best to educate, regulate, and kind of manage risk within the city through these inspections, and which include chemical inventory of the property and a groundwater risk assessment for the parcel as well. Stormwater is also important in this area to focus on. The inspections include a stormwater risk assessment too, because they do drain to the rivers. With the Stormwater Week coming up, it's important to note. And then obviously they recharge the aquifer, so that's why that's important. Sources of contamination, each jurisdiction is different. There's a lot of gas stations in Riverside. There's the Tri-Cities wastewater plant right almost across the river. And then areas specific to Riverside, I'll start with DAP. That, a long time ago, that was contaminated with chlorinated solvents, adhesives, heavy industry, kind of across from the base there. That's now a Superfund site managed by the EPA. Trey Danis landfill, technically a brownfield, working on that. And then Valley Pike VOC site, I'll get into that later, but that's also a Superfund site. So the Protection Fund, that was a good explanation, and I'm just going to go through these bullet points with examples. So risk reduction projects. When I met the fire inspector, we collaborated to equip Station 5 with hazmat material. So when they go out and respond to a spill in the well field, they're able to clean it up. The fire department is really important regarding initial impact, because they can impact whether the spill is contained and how quickly it's contained. Does it impact the stormwater? Does it get into the stormwater infrastructure, and then will reach the rivers? So the quicker they are, really the less contamination. And they've been a huge help in understanding that. Let's see. Government Services Building, 1791 Harshman. We funded a septic tank removal. So they have loads of bacteria, nitrogen, things that pollute the groundwater, and with proper removal and the leaching pit as well, risk reduction for the aquifer. And then new signs, 17 new source water protection area signs were installed. Your services department maintains them, install them and maintain them, and they're just a better way to raise awareness and just let everyone know as soon as they pass the sign that this is the new source water area. And the boundaries have changed. That's why the new signs. Thank you. Risk buy down. These are kind of rare, to be honest. This one was back in like 2009, I believe. Yes. But the point of these are they're TMDI, total maximum daily inventory. That's the amount of chemicals allowed on parcel on site at any time. And conforming use, like I mentioned earlier, is 160 pounds, so that's a huge difference. Reduces risk majorly. So this is an example of somebody having a super high TMDI going down to 160 pounds, so 100% risk point buy down, which is great, risk reduction. Emergency response, I have two examples for these. One was right here. This was my first tank removal. You were installing a backflow preventer, and then Pester Plumbing found an old home heating oil tank, and there was a spill, 20 to 30 gallon spill, and that really gave me the opportunity to educate the services department, really, and they were timely and got it cleaned up in no time. Second, this is an example of a fire. So And the first one was a groundwater, more of a groundwater concern. This one highlights stormwater concern for Carr Fire. 2 storm drains were impacted, one on the same side of the street, other on the other side of the street, and then they go to the Mad River. Again, fire department is really paramount here. Their implementation of spill control, spill containment is first. And then Valley Pike. So like I said before, this is a US EPA Superfund site. I included the area of concern just to give you a visual and the amount of neighborhoods and people affected by this. They have the vapor intrusion contraptions on their homes. So the groundwater was polluted by chlorinated solvents. And I'd like to connect, chlorinated solvents is on our list of prohibited substances that you cannot have in the well field due to the high nature of contamination. Like those 2 soda bottles would ruin, there's the sole source aquifer that we have here. So that's why it's important to just comply. And then, let's see, kind of like Zach said, the positions that the Source Water Protection Program funds. Children's Water Fest is always fun, and Naya or Lori, they come to that and help us, partner with us on that. Responsible for education, collaboration within the city to the residents. We work together. Let's see. And they understand how important land use is, and, ordinance amendments, and just the importance of using the land correctly. And because it's important, would you like a gas station here or an office building? Those 2 are severely different, and then in the future, we'll have different issues arise. And so if you have kind of always when it'll be polluted, maybe not if, in the back of your mind, that might help. Kind of, do we want this business here or not? So it's kind of a lot on those slides. We just wanted to sum.
Any questions?
Sure. So you talked about the stormwater risk assessments that you perform. Could you talk more about those?
Oh, sure. So when I go out and do inspections, I always check the storm drains, if it's a grate, if it's on the curb. I look inside them. I look for drainage patterns, paths, if there's staining, where it's coming from. Sometimes I'll go out in the rain, or if it's streets are flooded, well, I'll look if I can't, drive. But I just kind of keep an eye out for anything out of the ordinary, and then I ask the business owners if they have any issues as well.
So is there, like, in relation to looking at the stormwater, how does that information flow back into our service department for managing our stormwater projects, if that makes any sense? Like, is there, like, what kind of, I guess what I'm looking for is, how do we partner together? Can you highlight some of those ways?
Riverside's been all right. I haven't encountered any really big roadblocks with stormwater.
I think a lot of the day-to-day maybe, and Sarah and Zach reel me in, is it comes down to when incidents arise. So for example, like the Carr Fire that maybe is going to put contaminants down into the stormwater system, then our fire department has to know what's going on, how to mitigate that, and then we loop source water in. So there are like acute incidents where we'll be in contact, and then there are other instances where, if you think about, like Sarah mentioned with land use, we may have a really significant code enforcement case where somebody's got a lot of stuff on their property, and that stuff might be things that could get down into the soil, through the soil, into the water, and contaminate the drinking water. We've had situations where we've asked Source Water to come in and help us evaluate not just code violations that affect the Riverside City Code, but also the regulations that govern the drinking water system, because nobody, I assume, wants to drink contaminated water. So we have a few touch points on a few different levels where we interact. But yeah, I think in general, they've been great partners for us too.
Yeah.
So.
And then we also work with Soil and Water District as well.
So, we'll ask a question to Josh first. The city of Riverside, we don't have stormwater in the entirety of the city, correct? There's places in the city that do not have stormwater systems.
You're asking about infrastructure?
Yes.
Parts of the city do and parts do not.
Okay, so then my question to you all is, how important is it for a city to have adequate stormwater infrastructure, especially since we sit on an aquifer that provides drinking water to?
It's a complicated question. So one of the things from a regulatory perspective that we're oftentimes managing is looking at were there to be released, where does it go? So if you have something like a dry well, which is essentially just a pit meant to push rainwater into the ground as quickly as possible, that's a really bad place to have a spill, because it's doing the same thing with anything that's spilled there. So it's quite complicated, because when we're talking about stormwater, we're looking at where does that drain. So stormwater might be better unless it's draining into a higher risk, more concern area, right? If it's taking it closer to the well field. So I wouldn't necessarily, I'd say that's the framework that we're looking at it from. And oftentimes we're pushing for a good storm system as opposed to what's often in place, which is direct drainage.
Okay. So, I guess I'm trying to make this consumable for
Sure.
the masses here. So if I'm on a street and I live on top of an aquifer, so
Mhm.
the ground below me provides the drinking water for how many people?
400,000 plus.
400,000 people.
Yeah.
So there's 25,000 people here. The ground below us, the water that's there, provides 400,000 people drinking water, right? How important is it for us to have adequate stormwater infrastructure to keep those 400,000 people with safe drinking water? Important? Yes? It's like a yes, no, maybe?
Sure, stormwater is an important aspect of source water management.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it's also fair to say too, again, not to speak for you all, but one of the unique things about our water environment in this region is that I believe the phrase is that we are, groundwater under the influence of surface water with respect to how we get our drinking water. What that means is, if you go out west, if you go live in Kansas City, all your drinking water is going to come from a river. And that's been passed down through every other wastewater treatment plant that's upstream.
Mm-hmm.
If you live here, we're going to get most of our drinking water out of the ground. But groundwater under the influence of surface water means if you're not trapping contaminants at the surface, odds are it's going to get into the groundwater, which is where this intersection with stormwater becomes important. But that's also why it's a complicated question, because it depends on, where you are in the region and what's getting into the water, how rainy it's been. Point being, it's an important component of the overall system in helping keep our drinking water safe.
Right. Often what I'll hear is, we have stormwater in my neighborhood, why would I be paying for somebody else's, right? And what I want to drive home the point here is that it's an interconnected system that we have an important job to do to keep the water under us safe, so people in surrounding communities can have safe drinking water.
Certainly.
All right.
Thank you
Any-
both.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate all your time.
If anyone would like to speak on an agenda or non-agenda item, please fill out a form. There are blank forms located in the back of the room, and turn them in to our council clerk. We have all had time to review the minutes from our September 2nd, 2025 council meeting. Do I have?
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. We don't have anyone at this time speaking on agenda. Oh, we do. Okay. We have one speaker on an agenda item. Mr. Gaby, could you please come to the podium? Please speak into the microphone and state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes for your comments.
Steve Gaby, 4839 Conway Road. My comments on the personal policy manual that you are updating. There are some word problems that I see being a contract negotiator with Pepsi over the years. One is the up to 5 days of bereavement for the death of. It should not be up to 5 days because we've had problems with different management coming in and saying, well, it's up to 5 days. Today's the funeral. You get today, you get tomorrow off for bereavement. You ain't getting all 5, you're only getting 2. You know, it should say when we did them, you know, sometimes it says may take 5 days or just you get 5 days for bereavement, not up to. That leaves it up to somebody else to say, hey, we're going to treat you different than this guy, depending on the manager. Not saying that Josh will do that, but it should not say up to. And the other thing is 1 day for the death of a relative, not an immediate family, at the discretion of a city manager. Josh would say, yeah, you can have off for your second cousin, and the next city manager say, no, it should be in black and white. It should be whatever relative that is, it should be 1 day, yes or no. It shouldn't be up to anybody's decision to make that comment. And that's all I got to say on that.
Thank you. Moving on to unfinished business, our first item this evening is the second reading and public hearing of ordinance number 25-0-870. Mr. Manager, would you give a brief refresher on this ordinance?
Yes, ma'am. This is the second reading of the ordinance that would transfer ownership of certain property parcels that we've discussed at a couple meetings now to the CIC, the Riverside CIC. These parcels are largely located in this area of the Springfield Street corridor. The goal of this transfer would be to empower or otherwise instruct the CIC to put these parcels back into productive use. And so while this transfer gives the CIC authority over those parcels, assuming they have success in repurposing them, then the door is open to conversations about how exactly the city would be reimbursed for those, for the sale or otherwise productive disposal of those parcels.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, so Ms. Lomach and Mr. Joseph.
And
Okay.
Jesse, sorry.
And just a reminder, members of the CIC, we do have the city manager, the mayor, as well as another representative, our law directors, members of the CIC as well.
Correct.
So it's not just a completely
Can-
organization on its own.
Can we
correct?
hold the conversation until after the public hearing?
Yep.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second to open the public hearing. The Riverside Charter will, wait. So that's enough to move on?
Yeah, that's just the statement that says the Riverside Charter says that the ordinance could be read by title only unless a member of council
Okay.
requests otherwise.
All right, so I'll read that part. The Riverside City Charter allows for the reading of an ordinance to be read by title only unless a council member requests otherwise. Madam Clerk, please read the ordinance by title only.
Ordinance 25-0-870, an ordinance declaring certain parcels of city property to no longer be needed for municipal purposes and to be surplus and authorizing the city manager to execute documents necessary to convey said property to the Community Improvement Corporation of Riverside, Ohio for economic development and declaring an emergency.
I will now open the public hearing for anyone who wishes to comment on ordinance 25-0-870 at
631.
6:31 PM. For anyone wishing to speak, please state your name and address and keep your comments to 3 minutes.
My name is Angel Patterson at 102 Prince Albert Boulevard, Riverside. Josh sort of answered my question, but I just want to make sure I understand completely. I was going to ask for you to clarify what the financial arrangement is between the City of Riverside and the CIC for these properties. I understand that the goal for the properties is to be absorbed by neighboring properties or to be remodeled or repurposed for business use, et cetera, which will also bring in tax revenue later. And I also understand that by turning these vacant properties over to the CIC, the city will no longer have the maintenance and upkeep costs, I believe. My question for clarification is, once the CIC has ownership of the property and then it does sell or something, are you saying at that point that's when discussion would occur for if the city would receive a portion of that profit? Like, we're not saying that the city does not get anything from the CIC, like it's a discussion at that point? Is that accurate?
Yes, essentially,
Okay.
yes. I mean, the short-term benefit is that the maintenance and some of the costs that the city bears now would not be on the city's books. They would be the CIC's responsibility. So the city will save some money right away by
Right.
moving these parcels over. And then after that, there's not a firm determination inside this ordinance about like a revenue share necessarily. The door is open to that conversation though, and again, a lot of the folks that we're wearing two hats, one as a city hat and one as a CIC hat. So it's not like there's a totally different group of people that will have to make that decision. But it kind of depends because some of those parcels are very, very small and others are large and they have a lot of economic development potential. So we intend to evaluate these on a case-by-case basis. If there's a big economic development deal that the CIC scores across the Air Force Museum, that's a completely different conversation than one of the smaller parcels that a neighbor may want to acquire.
Okay, so I would assume then that the city will be conducting like ongoing analysis of those sales to make sure that the partnership with the CIC is still more beneficial than trying to maintain those properties and sell them on your own?
Yes, correct.
Okay, thank you.
Frida Patterson, 335 Marjorie Avenue, Riverside. I am questioning the fact that when CIC was here, they were asking basically, from my understanding, that these properties be given to them, handed over. So at that point, where is our guarantee if we're just giving these away that there's going to be any type of profit at all for Riverside? And then my question is, if it comes out of CIC funds to maintain these properties once they are turned over, I'm just wondering where that money comes from. If since part of the CIC, like you said, some of you are on that.
Right.
So where do those funds come from to keep those maintained until a point in time that they are sold, developed, whatever?
Yeah, and just to take a sort of a half step back. So when the CIC was set up earlier this year, it's set up as a separate organization, but it is funded at this point entirely by the city. So the city in its budget gives the CIC $100,000 to operate, right? The goal though, and in the agreement, I believe it's specified in that agreement that the city signed with the CIC, and it's also part of the CIC's business strategic plan. Eventually, the CIC is to be an independent, no self-funded, no reliance on the city at all. But in order to get it to that point, we have to find ways to try for the CIC to make money, to go compete in the business market and everything else. So the answer to your question is sort of twofold. This initial property transfer is another way of seeding the CIC to try to get it something it can use to go make money so that it can be self-sufficient. And after that, it kind of depends on what deals the CIC may be able to pull off as far as how much money it may be able to generate from some of these things in order to be able to finally cut ties financially with the city. Does that make sense so far? So in other words,
It does, but it doesn't. So I thought the CIC was like a whole separate entity. Now it sounds like it's not so much.
It is. It's a completely separate legal entity. It's just that it is funded. The city basically is helping to pay for the CIC until the CIC does enough deals to have its own self-sustaining budget.
So we, if I'm understanding correctly, we are paying the CIC to take our properties at the moment.
At the moment, yes, but that is not the intention. The idea is to be able to equip them to go make these deals.
Right, I
so that we
understand the
don't have
long
to
term.
Support them anymore.
Right.
Right.
And many cities have established these CICs kind of the same way that we have in order to jumpstart economic growth within their communities. And you probably have examples that I can't think of.
Trotwood's a good one.
Trotwood's one that's done that, I think, with the old Sears, is it the Sears?
The mall.
The mall, the old Sears Mall area.
So-
Go ahead.
Sorry, so those original funds are coming out of where? Which budget funding?
It's not money, it's the property.
No, from my understanding, we're also giving them money to
Seed
maintain,
money.
correct?
Yeah,
Yes.
it's in the the city's annual budget, basically out of I don't remember exactly which fund at
Okay.
the moment, but we budget for it underneath the community development department.
So at some point,
But
and
at
don't
some
get me,
point that would go
don't
away.
get me wrong, I'll finish in the end, but, so at some point, basically, the taxpayer, that is taxpayer money at some point in the long run, correct?
Sorry, say that again?
Till they can pay it back.
That is taxpayer money at some point in the long run. Residents are basically paying for that to happen at the moment.
City
Okay.
dollars are currently funding the CIC.
Which is taxpayer money.
Currently, correct, yes.
Okay, I'm just clarifying for
Yep.
everybody. I did not think that was the way that this was happening. That was not my understanding until, that's why I'm wanting to clarify. I think most of us thought, like I said, that the CIC was basically a separate, like, company or entity that we were in contact with to try to dispose of some of these properties at a profit. So that's the reason I'm just clarifying. However, let me say at the end, I'm not sure I 100% agree with the way that's being done, but I am totally glad to see these properties going somewhere. So let me just say, I mean, thank you all that took this into effect into getting rid of some of these problems. And can we work on one of the Right Point buildings next, please?
Oh, trust-
Thank you.
Oh, Trust me.
Seeing no one further, I will now close the public hearing
6:38.
at 6:38 PM. Is there any further discussion by members of council?
Go ahead, Mike.
My understanding is the purpose, one of the main purposes of the CIC is to make things go quicker, because if the city sells something, we have to go through an ordinance, and it takes 2 readings and so the purpose, one of the main purposes of the CIC is to streamline that process so that we can move quicker when we have somebody that wants to come in and do some development. We don't have to go through all the, jump through as many hoops as we do as a council, depending on the timeline. That's a true statement?
That's correct. The CIC moves at the speed of business. The city moves at the speed of the city. And so part of the advantage of using the CIC is that it is a specific legal entity with its own rules as specified in ORC and other places that allows those deals to be cut much more quickly and with a lot less red tape. So that's one of the advantages of spinning it up.
I just
as a community.
wanted you guys to understand why we push to have the CIC.
I appreciate that.
Well,
Okay? So that's the purpose, is to streamline things so that we can move more quickly. It's not us, but it is an entity to itself.
Well, and the bottom line too, cities shouldn't be in the business of real estate.
Right.
We don't
Right.
we don't have the resources or the ability to do that. That's why the CIC is there, to be there they have the connections, they have the resources, they have the ability to connect with outside partners and companies and entities that we can't do.
Right.
We should not be in the business of real estate.
And-
That's
and
what
it
these companies
streamlines
are
it.
for. Exactly.
Yeah. What I've learned is cities are very good at providing police, fire protection, parks, streets, nonprofit, resident-centered things. There's cities that try to get into enterprise-level operations. The city of Cincinnati ran a railroad. They don't own that anymore. The city of Gearing, Nebraska owns like a convention center. That's a struggle. Cities all across the country have, at some point, had an idea. Like, we're going to get into like a business-making thing, a pool or a golf course, for example. Ask any city with a pool or golf course. Those are money drains. It is a benefit to the residents to have a pool and a golf course, but it's a business and private citizens are really good at running businesses. Governments move slowly. It takes forever for things in government to move, right? And for real estate, I mean, if you ever sold a house, things happen very fast, right? You get an offer letter, you have to answer that like immediately, or you're gonna lose out on tens of thousands of dollars. So an example we can look at is Cincinnati. If anybody's familiar with Over the Rhine, in the early 2000s, there was one of the most deadly neighborhoods in the country. In the course of 20-ish years, it is now like one of the most vibrant, up-and-coming areas in our state. And that's through something similar to akin to a CIC, is the city of Cincinnati got in partnership with 3CDC, and they took a high-crime area and turned it into $1 million condos. I think this is the right direction for the city. I think Huber Heights has something similar to a CIC, and a quick research, some of their accomplishments was carriage trails, the rows, Moraine Meadows. You can see in a neighboring city the success of what a CIC can do with given the time and resources. So I appreciate all the help and hard work that went into generating this.
No further comments, then Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Ms. Lomach?
Yes.
Mr. Joseph?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Denning?
Yes.
Mr. Maxfield?
Yes.
And Ms. Fry.
Yes. Ordinance number 25-0-870 is adopted. Moving on to new business, we have 2 resolutions this evening. Mr. Manager, would you like to comment on resolution number 25-R-3050?
Yes, ma'am. This is the resolution that would adopt the recommended changes to the personnel manual. I think Mr. Gaby's comments are well taken. If you'd like to act based on those comments, I recommend that you basically move to adopt the manual with the changes being that we would strike the words up to. We would just say point blank, you can get 5 days or 3 days of bereavement leave. And you could also strike at the discretion of the city manager from the non-immediate family member clause. Those are pretty minor, straightforward adjustments. I don't know that, unless you'd like, I can go back and prepare it. We can talk about it next meeting. But off the top of my head, I'm sure that neither Jim or April in HR would have any objection to those changes either.
Now, that does make sense when thinking about it because depending on who that person is, could interpret it a different way. So
Right.
Thank you for kind of making that point. I appreciate that, but that does make a lot of sense.
Yeah. So
So do we need to say,
I think if you make assuming
Motion
to approve with the changes recommended,
Okay.
then I think we'll make sure that that's.
We've got to
Make a
record it.
motion. that
the
we
primary
approve
motion has to be.
Changes recommended.
Yeah.
so motion to
So-
approve with the changes recommended?
So do I have a motion for resolution number,
I just did.
oh, that was
Yes.
the motion?
Yeah, that was.
the
Okay,
motion.
so
All
then-
right. Do I have a
He
second?
made it right.
Don't we have to motion the primary motion first?
No,
No.
because nobody had motioned that before the comment. With Josh making the comment, his motion is now to approve the resolution with the recommended changes, which are recorded.
And I'll second that.
Yes.
On the record, yeah.
Yep.
Yep, that's correct. If someone had made that motion
Sorry,
first
interrupt you.
before the discussion, we would have had to have made that vote and then gone ahead. Yeah.
Is there any further comment from council on resolution number 25-R-3050?
Good catch. That's super smart. Overlooked, so thank you, Steve, for that.
And I do want to thank Josh and administration for trying to align this policy handbook with the other contracts of our city employees. It makes sense, it's fair. So thank you for looking at that and taking the time to go through that and continuing to look through it as we go through the process.
Yep, we're trying to make sure it's as fair as possible for all the employees.
That's how we keep
So,
and attract good
Good talent.
employees. Yep.
yes, sir.
Also, while it's not always as straightforward to just strike an amendment, this is a very good example of how anybody can come to that podium and impact immediate change in the way that our city operates. So, good civics lesson there.
All right, ready to vote? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Our last resolution of the evening is Resolution Number 25-R-3051. Mr. Manager, do you have a comment on Resolution Number 25-R-3051?
Just a brief, this is pure annual housekeeping. So every year, the county budget commission, meets and they determine the tax rates and amounts that get put on tax duplicates. The councils of the various municipalities are required to approve and adopt of those determinations. So that's what's before you today.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any further comment from council? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Do we have a public comment on non-agenda items? It looks like we do have one. Ashley Nash? Could you please come to the podium, speak into the microphone, and state your name and address for the record?
Yes, Ashley Nash, Beatrice Drive, Riverside, Ohio. I was here a month ago. Zach, I watched that documentary on Cincinnati and Over the Rhine. I used to deliver down to Over the Rhine. And it's beautiful today, but at a cost of displacement of the low-income housing that went through, and those people had to disperse because they came in and bought them to make them bigger. So it's a double-edged sword with that. As far as the groundwater, 65, I've drank well during rain, floods, still here. So my question to you is, and I have another concern that I'm going to bring up, is the Beatrice and Carlton area there. What is going on? Because I've heard from different sources that they kind of went around you folks and went to Montgomery County and the state of Ohio to get some things passed, to come in there and build more than a house and a driveway and 2 or 3 little bungalows. I've also heard that they only had a permission to go in and build a driveway and clear out honeysuckle and that. I have 150 trees in a pile in my backyard. They're going in and just ripping it all out. And now they have a big fence they're going to put in. I'm good with that, whatever you guys want to do, but neighbors would like to know what is going on with that property. And we checked the mark on the box about calling last time. Never received a phone call. I did it again today. I hope I get a call about that. Thank you.
I want to ask you, I went out there, and do you dare go down that driveway?
No, I don't.
Well, I didn't,
Yeah.
but I know
won't-
what you're talking about.
Yep, won't do it.
Is it still dirt
It's gravel
or gravel,
and a
whatever?
parking lot.
And that's behind the trees that
Oh,
you
yeah.
can't see?
You go right
Well,
down
now how
that-
can you see what's back there
Because
if
I
you don't
live-
drive down that little road?
You can see straight down that road to the right or in the back of it, the whole parking lot. And all the neighbors get to watch that line that whole road up. I understand people want to build. I get it. We just want information on what's going on with that.
I understand that. I just don't know how we can see what's going on if we can't go down that road. I didn't dare go down that road.
You
but-
can ask anyone to go in their backyard. You can see it from Bernie Teese's cornfield. There's a number of ways you can look at it.
Well, I think,
From Thesis Cornfield, I know where that is.
Yeah, yes.
Josh, can you make sure you call and maybe send us a follow-up with that phone call?
We certainly will.
Okay.
The most I can say at this point in time, though, is that the applicant, as far as our codes and the ordinances that we have, everything the applicant has filed is consistent with their land use, and they're allowed to do it by right. So there's nothing for us to get involved with really at this point, based on the work that they've done and the filings that they've submitted. Certainly, if we get a report or we see something that's not consistent with their plan, that means other things, right? That's a different kind of a trigger.
Let me ask you another question.
Mhm.
How long are they allowed to do the bulldozers all day, 7 days a week, from 8 in the morning till 6, 7 o'clock at night? It's all day.
It would be with whatever the guidelines in our noise ordinance are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which off the top of my head, I think are like 8 to 10.
Yeah.
But we can double check.
That's what I was
but-
thinking, too.
Yeah.
I think it's 7.
It might be 7, but
Yeah.
either way. But no, I will make sure that we follow up and get in touch with you, and then we'll go from there as well.
We would
So,
just like to know how much they're gonna build. What are they gonna do? I
Right.
mean, leach beds, wells, bungalows, house, what's the plan?
Yep. We'll
Thank
be in
you.
touch, yep.
And I apologize, Mr. Gaby, did you have a non-agenda item you wanted to speak on? Okay, please come up to the podium.
Steve Gaby, 4839 Conway Road. My question is there a senior discount for the new trash and the stormwater services that's being implemented? If not, why was that not a part of the bargaining process? If there are discounts available, how can the residents without internet access find the information to apply for these discounts? And the information on the discounts that they talked about before with the rain barrels and everything, there's no information out there. They're saying you can get discounts if you put the rain barrels and a couple other things in there. There's no information put out, period.
We're still working on that. It'll be forthcoming as far as the processes to go about for the rain barrels and rain gardens and how much of a discount that would represent for the
Right.
bill.
But
So that's
this is
forthcoming.
September and this starts in January, correct?
The program, the bill, so the first bills will go out next April.
For January, February, March.
Correct, but we're taking all that into account as far as when folks, the timelines to get
Yeah.
all these things back. And because we're running the billing ourselves, we have a lot more flexibility to credit back if necessary, so.
But my big thing on that is a discount to the seniors, especially, with living below the poverty level in this state. Our area is like, 16, 17% living below the poverty level, and you're throwing another tax fee or whatever you want to call it on older people, 80, 90-year-old, not single, but widowed people, and there's no discount for them. I think it's disgraceful that people voted for that without any regard to the elderly in this city. Thank you.
Talking about me.
Also, for the record, it's 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. The erection, including the excavation, demolition, alteration, or repair of any building other than between the hours of 7 a.m. and 10 p.m., except in the
they've
cases
left.
of urgent necessity.
That is all the requests from the public, for public comment. Now I will turn the meeting over to you, Mr. Manager.
Just a couple items for folks. So the first discussion item, I have a bullet point on here for the third quarter supplemental. So we are coming to the end of third quarter here in mid-September. I will have a small supplemental for you that we'll do 2 reads on, starting at the meetings in October. I don't anticipate a whole lot on that supplemental. So as an example, I know the fire department got reimbursed for some grant money. In order to spend that money this year, we would need to increase the appropriations. So that's part of what we'll be doing on this supplemental. But we'll have a full detail with some descriptions about all that for you in the next packet. And I would also expect that we will, as usual, have a fourth quarter or a year-end supplemental that will come to you in December. And just for the folks at home too, that supplemental we usually use to true up the books so that we're closing out the year in line with what we've told like the county on our certificates and everything else as well. Second item is an STP grant. So this is a surface transportation grant that's offered through the Miami Valley Regional Planning Commission. These are state and federal dollars that allow us to go through and repave roads. Staff are currently looking at an STP grant application for Spinning Road north of Burkhart. The funding round is for dollars that would not become available until 2030 or 2031. So the way these road projects work, and Sarah's mentioned many times, you know, we got in line for the bridge, and it took however many years, 10 years probably almost, to get money for the bridge.
Still don't have my lights.
These are, it's very long runways on these road funding projects. So I do have staff looking at that. We are talking with our engineers and with other folks about what the interaction is up that way as far as with the prairies and some of the federally owned properties. If for some reason these grant dollars are not the best fit for that area, we will find another area and another project. Part of the reason we're looking at that area is because the county just went through and redid all the water lines, and they were only sort of patching that road in various spots, and it's more likely to fail more quickly. It is likely that if we decide to pursue STP funding, this is one of those areas where we will be asked to make sure that any ADA ramps, Americans with Disabilities, the ramps with the wheelchairs and like the studded pads and everything, it will likely be our responsibility to replace those along whatever route we choose. So that's also part of this equation as well. Assuming we move forward, we will figure out a way to balance that in the capital budget in order to set ourselves up to deliver on a grant. But just wanted to give you a heads up that iron is in the fire. We're going to find a way to try to get in line and the best project to pursue.
What's the deadline for that? October something, isn't it?
I think it's mid-October. I think
Yeah.
we have one more meeting.
I think it's October, yeah.
So I should have a resolution to you at the next meeting.
Next meeting.
At the 6th.
Do we know what the match component to that would be?
I don't off the top of my head. I'll find out. A couple other little items. So I've got a couple of questions about this over the last couple of weeks, but just for clarification, Beggars Night, trick or treat, whatever verbiage you use, it is Friday, October 31st. I believe, I want to say 6 to 8?
That is the time.
6 to 8. I
Always
remembered something.
Halloween, always October 31st.
So just for everybody out there, if, in case you've been wondering, that will be the night to go around.
Night.
And also, just one other final thing by way of thanks to everybody in the community who participated in the land use zoning code rewrite survey. I did get a heads up from the consultant this morning. There were several hundred responses to that survey, which we love the interaction. That's awesome. They are compiling some of the feedback, and I believe, from what they tell us, they should have some preliminary results at Planning Commission this coming Wednesday, and that'll be at 6:30. And so that feedback helps us, again, contextualize and then take this conversation about land use in our new code to the next level. So that's all I have.
Any questions for the manager?
All right, Council, there's a statutory obligation. We all hand out candy, right?
Go right ahead.
Go right ahead. No, last year I got.
Moving on to council member comments. Does anyone have any comments they would like to share?
Is there a blood drive coming up?
There is September 29th from 3 to 6 here at the city. We won't have a council meeting that night, but the Bloodmobile will be in the front parking lot. We don't have a whole lot of people signed up so far, so please, I urge anyone who would be able to donate, please consider donating. It saves lives. The way to register is to go to donortime.com and search for the city of Riverside. Anyone else? I would just like to respond directly to Mr. Gaby's comment about the choice of choosing the contract we did with the garbage collection. If you go back and look at the meeting, we did discuss the senior discount at that meeting. And what was presented was that we could, as a city, we're the ones collecting, we could offer a senior discount ourselves. But based on the contracts that were coming in, it would have been a net negative to try to offer a senior discount. We would end up paying more over to the contract by pursuing that. So that was the situation there. Any others? Okay. Being no further business on the agenda, council is adjourned at
7 p.m.
Yeah, 7 PM.